as a web front end. Originally, it was a desktop application, and we want you to be able to construct this as a web front end. So basically, I don't want you to be swamped with too much information because it is actually quite a complex application. But what we're going to start you working on is the the patients and the invoicing. Okay, so we're going to start working on the patient data, and that's going to be what you're going to start with, and then do the invoicing. So it's not too complicated. We're not going to go through every feature of Clarity to begin with, but it's just something that we'll progress later on. So I'll make Rania the presenter. Rania, are you on the internet or are you on the phone?
Okay, give me 1 minute. I'm just trying to see if I can get Clarity up and running. Other than that, I can actually then I can explain to you how the patient journey through the actual application will happen. Okay. So what happens is a patient might, a sick person might call the medical center or the doctor and say, I would like to make an appointment to see Dr. Z at the medical center. So the receptionist will be asking the patient, okay, have you been there? Have you been in the practice? Have you seen the doctor previously? And depending on the answer the patient say, whether it's yes, if that means the patient already exists in the system, and if it's no, that means the patient has not. It's new to the system. And that's when we're going to go through the registering a new patient. So this is the process where we're going to be registering just a new patient to the database.
Okay.
Okay. I received the documentation of the application, and this is the first time I received it. So, do you have any document on or business description about this app, or just only this document? I mean, do you have any more detail about this app?
Yeah, I'm going to show you now through the application. So I'm sharing my screen now.
Okay.
So Van, the intention here is that you step through what Rania is going to do. She's going to eventually set up a version of the application that you can access using a VPN. So that's going to be the desktop application, and you can play around. We'll give you access to that VPN, and you can play around with it as much as you need to familiarize yourself with what you need to do. But what you're effectively doing is creating a like-for-like between the application and the web version that you'll be building. So what Rania steps you through now is will be accessible to you, but we'll just do it in sections. So go ahead, Rania.
So Janika, can you see my screen?
Yes, I'm seeing.
So
yeah, I got it.
I'm going into the patient tab, and I'm saying this patient is new, so it doesn't exist in the database. So I'm creating on new patient.
Good.
Okay. Basically, you can see fields are highlighted in red of the compulsory field to save this patient into the database, as well as the banner here. It tells you, okay, patient last name required, patient date of birth required, patient first name required. So even if it doesn't make sense to you, That's what the banner at the top is indicating to you, that those 3 fields are required. So the last name, I'm just going to put it. And you can see, as soon as I start typing in the last name, the red box around the field is disappeared.
Okay.
Again, for the first. Then you can tab and type in the middle name if the patient has a middle name. Title, basically by starting with the letter M, it automatically is going to select Mr. Then if I type in I, it's going to change to Mrs. Depends on what I type. It's going to. Date of birth is another field that is, it's going to automatically calculate the patient age based on what I type in. And if it's invalid, it's going to highlight it red.
I mean, validation. You have validation for this.
Yes, so there is a business rule around the date of birth. It cannot be in the future. It cannot be invalid numbers. So the patient cannot be 200 years old. Now, business rules need to apply. And
Okay, can you please double click on the date? Because can we choose by click on it? Okay.
Definitely. You've got the 2 options, either selecting from the calendar, or with the reception field, they usually like to keep typing, not moving between the keyboard and the mouse. They do have the 2 options, but we want to make sure that they can type it like key into the system as well.
Okay.
DTG, that's a lookup that's only related to the Australian market, whether they Aboriginal, whether they Torres Strait Islander. That's the lookup. And preferred clinicians, at the medical center, you might have 2 or 3 doctors. I prefer to see one of the doctors. I can type in the notes related to this patient, or I can just leave it empty.
Rania, I've got a question. Rania, the VPN that you set up, that's going to be, that Tone has access to this front end, the interface. That's going to be accessing a database relative to this application, but the API that Abraham has constructed is going to point to what exactly? Which database is it pointing? Is it going to be the same database?
I'm not quite sure.
All right, I'll have to check with Abraham.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Then
I think for the detail, we will discuss later. Then, so if you have any critical or any stress, or you can show me, because I think it's very many detail. We will discuss about that later on. Okay. Hello, Abraham.
Is there a question for me there?
Yeah, if it takes time to go for every detail, you can dismiss the. You can just stress or on a very important point.
Yeah, that's fine. It's just a run through, and what's happening here. I'm recording the discussion through GoToMeeting, Van, and that way I'll be able to email it to you as well. So you'll be able to review it. So the more details, you're not losing anything by it. So the more Rani goes through this, the better off it'll be, because we'll be able to refer back to this time and time again. But We are just stepping through like in detail right now because we know how complicated the application is later on. So right now this is actually, it is very basic, but later on it'll get more detailed. Yeah, more difficult to understand. All right.
After I've entered the last name, first name, and date of birth, the save button enables. So I can basically save this patient straight away, or I can do other functionality through here, which is I can open the medical record of this patient, or I can add this patient to the waiting room, or invoice them, or do all the. So I'm not gonna today. We're not gonna go through any of that other than the saving the patient, which is basically registering a new patient. But by opening the medical record, it's gonna save the patient and open the medical record. Same with all the other functionality I've got here. So if they choose to continue with populating the data for this patient, I can continue with that. Automatically, the system selects the status as active. So the patient is new to the system and the patient is already here, so it's an active patient to the medical center. File location, that's optional. They don't use it that much, but if you have it, it's basically saying, oh, I've got a hard copy of this patient record and it's located in this folder, this room. But at the medical center, it's hardly used, but mainly it can be used at hospital. Vaccine schedule, that again, it's related to the Australian schedule, whether they're born before 2000, that related to the vaccination schedule. Basically, they can choose born before or it's after 2000. In here, in the details, you see how I can select it or expand it. This is something that the customer asked about it afterwards, saying, even though we have the address, the phone, the ID tabs here, they've said we don't want to click on the address and add a new one. So what we've done is we've added the address fields in here so they can straight away type in the address of this patient and their telephone number. So I'm just going to type in. And the system automatically actually select or populate the postcode for this suburb that I've chosen. And by pressing tab, it allows me to put the phone number, the home phone number. And mobile phone number. And work. So those are straightforward. Then Medicare number, there is business rules and there is conditions. So I can't type in whatever number there is a formula in Medicare, they usually give it to us.
Medicare number.
Yeah, which is...
Medicare number is just an official number that the Australian government hands out to every citizen, which gives them the ability to get free healthcare. So if they go to a doctor, if they go
it's already it already exists. It already exists in the database.
That's right. So the number already exists. It's in a specific format, and the API will generate the basically once you enter it, it will respond with the validation for you. Okay.
So I give it a number that's related to patient who's been to the army. That's another number. I'm not quite sure if there is a business rule related to the current application. Doesn't stop me, so I can type in any number and it's going to allow me to save the patient, but not for Medicare number.
Okay.
And concession healthcare card ID, that's basically for patients who has concessions. So there are certain circumstances where a single mom might have a specific healthcare card that allow them to buy medication at a cheaper price. That's another ID number.
So is this unique? Is this unique? Abraham Healthcare is unique.
Yes, it's allocated by the government.
Yes.
It's like the Medicare number.
Okay. Not the Medicare number. It's a family, for example, of 4. They will have the Medicare number exactly the same, but the reference it could be. My husband could be 1. I could be number 2. My daughter would be number 3, and my son would be number 4. So this number is exactly the same for my husband, my daughter, and my son, and myself. Yeah?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so Van, the way that works is so you got a family will be allocated a card with an ID, so the Medicare number, and then you have a listing of the family members on that card, and each family member will have a reference. So it's either 1, 2, 3, 4, etc. Okay.
So about the detail, all of them is field is required. I mean the detail in the bottom, mostly in the bottom of
the tab.
The square.
The details.
Yes, the tab.
So this is just it's like an overview of the data that are of these patients. So once I save this patient, address here, it will show 11 Cross Street, Concord, New South Wales 2137. The idea it's going to list the Medicare number that I've entered, the DVA number that I've entered.
So that's not showing there right now because you haven't saved it yet.
Exactly. So currently there's nothing because this patient, the patient does not exist in the database yet. But if I save this patient and reload the patient, I will have all this data populated.
So it's just an overview of the patient data, but it's not showing now because you haven't reloaded.
Yeah.
What do you mean by reload?
Having said that, I can actually navigate different tabs.
It is fillable only. The address of the is read only or fillable.
No, I can't type it in here. The only thing I can do is just click on address. That's going to take me to the address. Or I can...
But Rania, why can't you refresh this? Why isn't it refreshing?
Okay, the way it's been currently, this is... So what happened is it's a business object. What they save the actual, the data is caged currently, but because the address, the ID, and the phone numbers, they actually in a separate table. I don't think it's been caged here. But if I click on it, it's already in here.
Okay. So it is read only, right? So you cannot write on the
Correct.
No,
tab,
I
right?
can't write here. Here, I can't write at all. But if I save the patient, and I can search for that patient. Open this patient, I should be able to see. You can see now, in here, I've got all the data.
Okay.
But again, I
So
can
it's still
only...
read.
Sorry?
Yes.
You cannot edit here, right?
So you don't
You cannot
edit?
double click to edit it, right?
No. It's on the top screen. It's on the top section.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't get
Okay.
that. So
He wants to know if you can edit there. If you double click on the word.
Oh, in here, no. No. The only thing I can just navigate
only
to
and
the
read.
camera.
And you can edit here.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Or I can get in here, expand the details, and I can edit it through here.
Yeah.
If I don't want to go to the tab.
Okay.
Okay, now Rania,
Or
what
I
seems
can
pivotal
highlight it.
here? What seems pivotal here is that you created this record, this patient record, as a new one, right? So it's important that we demonstrate to Van the searching of a patient, which you just briefly did, but I think we need to be able to isolate that as part of this patient's module, to be able to search a patient and bring up a record and then perform these actions.
Yeah, the only thing with the search for a patient, it's sort of like, yeah, this is quite simple, but there's a lot of configurations that involved that I can to search for a patient or invoice or the search functionality within the application. It's not only a simple sort of search.
Okay.
The basic search one is going to be through here, but every search that I've got, I can specify the parameters that I want to search on.
Okay, so what you're referring to is, in fact, the search is detailed because there's a lot of parameters that you can search against. Is that what I'm understanding, or am I understanding it?
Yeah, I can configure. I can say I want to search for a patient based on surname, given name, or based on their ID, or based on their Medicare ID, or based on their MRC ID. I can search for a patient on anything, really. So, and defining those parameters is up to the end user. So I don't want to go through that yet, with them, because it's complicated.
Okay, so the reason why I'm asking is because I know from a development perspective, Van's going to have a little bit of trouble navigating his way through an application if he can only create a patient.
I can tell him. Yeah, I can tell him in this current application, it's been configured to search by surname, comma, space, given name, and it's going to bring you the list.
Okay.
I can show him that.
Okay.
But it's not the actual search functionality for this application.
Okay. All right. So we've gone through the patient record before searching the details and the address tab. Within the scope of what we're building here, is that the extent of it, or are we constructing all the other tabs as well?
I'm happy to focus on those 3 fields, because within those tabs, there are different functionality, but it's consistent across all. So I can highlight it, edit it. or I can delete it. For some reason, I can't.
Okay.
You didn't save it.
I just need to add. The button is hidden.
Yeah.
Okay.
Don't you need to save it before you can delete it?
It's already saved. So I can add a different address type, work, and then, as you can see, when I specified the home address, it gave me only line 1, line 2, and the server page and the postcode. So as soon as I selected a different address type, you can see I've got organization and attention, extra fields. Again, that's configuration. That can the user specify.
Okay.
Then I can select, okay, I want the work to be the favorite, and this is where we usually gonna send all the statements or all the reports or invoice for this patient to this address rather than their home address. So the user can say, oh, I want the work address to be my favorite or the default one, or the home address to be the default one. Again, I can say move it up or move it down. This functionality is across basically majority of those tabs where I've got like a list of data. The same thing applies under the phone tab. So I can say the home phone is not my, it's not the default. I want mobile phone. So I highlight it and click on the star button, and that's going to be the default number to contact the patient. Again,
So
I can
default
highlight
is just
sorry?
The default, the star mark is just only for one for one record, right?
The details, no. It should show all the details up to 3.
I mean,
The default is
mark
only
the
one. It's only one. Yes. It's only one.
Okay.
You can't have a default of 2 because you need to know which one's the first one to try attempt.
Yeah.
I got it.
The default, I can only select 1.
Okay. So do you want to check against validation? See what we have there for the phone number. And yeah, there's SMS. I'm assuming that's some sort of SMS service that sends messages, but you're applying it there to home numbers.
In here, this data, it can be, it's because it's an XML. It could be there is a bug in the XML, and that's why it's showing incorrect data. But I should get the 2 address, the home and work address listed here. Currently, I've got only the home address one.
Okay.
The same thing with it. I should have 2. Yes. Payor. This is the person who's going to be responsible on paying their invoices. Part of the application configuration, or majority of the customers, they ask to add Medicare and patients themselves as the default payers by default. that as soon as I register a new patient, the application automatically adds the patient himself or herself as a payer, as well as Medicare as a second payer. And I can tell the application I want Medicare to be the default payer or the patient themselves to be the default. In the current application, in the current configuration, they've set Medicare to be the default payer. However, in a case where the patient is under 16 or under 18, I might need to add the parent to be another payer. So, but this patient, the payer has to be in the database. So I need to search for the patient's mum or dad in the system. And you specify the type. In this scenario, it's parent. It could be, you could have a payer as an insurance company or employee with certain organization. They could, like BHP or RIA, they might send their patient to the medical center and saying, oh, I want you to do all these medical checks. So in that scenario, the payer would be BHP and the top would be employee. But
excuse me, we was disconnected because of some error network. Can you please say again that part about the payer?
For a while we didn't.
Okay. Rani, they were disconnected from the thing.
They are not connected to internet.
Sorry?
They dropped out of the call. They were disconnected.
Yeah. 5 minutes.
Yes.
Last 5 minutes.
So you need to describe the payer section.
If any strong part, can you remind?
Okay. So the payer, for example, you've got a patient who's under 16 years old. So the patient cannot pay for their invoice. They went to the doctor. So the payer is pay on behalf of this patient. So, for example, my son will go and he will be added to the system, but the payer in here, it could be myself or my husband's name. And you specify the type as a parent.
Okay.
That's one scenario. I could have another organization, like we've got companies who would send their employees to do medical checks. So in this case, the payer would be a company. And the top would be an employee. I'm working for this company, and they usually give me a reference number. So when I invoice that patient, that reference number, it's going to be on the invoice. And the schedule would be taken as fire. You can add any comments that you like and then imply. Does that make sense?
Okay, I missed your idea. Your idea is the age between from what age to what age? Up to 60, right?
No, that's not necessary. It's usually 16, but that's up to the receptionist to decide.
Okay.
We don't force them to add another payer to the system. Yeah?
Yes, okay. Got it.
The same thing in here applies. Even though the system automatically adds the patient as a payer for themselves, and they added Medicare, but I want Rio to be the default. So I highlighted the payer and click on default. And if I made a mistake, I can highlight the actual payer that's wrong and remove. This will only allow me to remove if this payer does not have an invoice linked to it, him or her.
Okay. So can we remove the default one? No?
Yes, I can remove the default as long as there is no invoice linked to that.
So the default should change to the first one.
Yeah, it defaulted to Medicare, which what I've got in my system. In my configuration, I said Medicare to be the default.
Okay.
But if I had, for example, if I've got an invoice linked to this payer, and I click on David text, the delete button would be disabled. So I can't delete that payer.
Okay.
Okay? Can we move to the
Yes.
social status?
Yes.
Or shall we leave the social status to later because that's related to medical sort of information? Maybe we'll do the ID.
Yeah, Rania, I'm getting a little bit concerned that we're throwing too much information at Van.
Okay.
Is Van? Are you okay so far with what you're seeing?
Yes.
You're okay so far. Okay, Rania, was there anything else? ID. Did you? How detailed is that?
It's exactly what we covered in here.
Okay.
So,
all right.
you know how we've added.
Yep. Okay.
I'm
Step through that last one. Step through ID as well, and we'll then go through the process of setting up Van with a connection to the VPN, and he can play around with it himself.
Yeah. Yep. All right. But because I've entered the Medicare and VPN number and the concession card, they all automatically added to here. And as you can see, by default, it's Medicare because I have it in my configuration setting Medicare as the default payer. So the Medicare number is the default as well, but that doesn't stop me from highlighting this and selecting set this as a default, the DVA. This ID, it's gonna be printed on the invoice that I'm gonna send to medical or to or DVA departments. I can highlight the ID, edit it. So what happens in Australia, the Medicare number has an expiry date. If this expired, what usually happens, Medicare usually gives me another ID, but usually it's the last number is changed.
You mean you can change the ID?
I can get because there is an expiry date for this. So let's say, for example, this expired 2018. So the receptionist cannot invoice Medicare based on the old ID. They need to get and change it, update it, and if the Medicare issued the patient another ID, and it's expiring in 2028. But I need to change it and apply, and it's going to be there.
Okay.
Yeah?
Yes.
There are different types of IDs, but patient identifier, that's we might not need to go through this at this stage, because there is a lot of so, for example, when I select the group as the health identifier, this is another ID the Australian government has issued the patient, but this number I need to connect. You can see in here I've got the iHi. I need to click on that button, communicate with the government, and the government is going to say to me, this patient has this iHi number, which is an individual healthcare identifier. So I can't type in here any number. Even if I tried, it doesn't. It's not letting me type in. It's not going to let me save it.
So is there prefix of this ID? I mean, when you choose the group ID, is there a prefix for the ID?
So
No.
see how I put health identifier? The type in here is this, only this type. If I choose Medicare, it's going to be Medicare type.
Okay.
If I choose GVA, it's going to be GVA only. Oh, you've got the white, orange, and gold ID, which is it's a different sort of level of invoicing and servicing this patient.
Okay.
So each one of them might have a different sort of type. So health performance identifier, you will have the list of all the private health insurance companies we've got in Australia.
I get the ID. I get your idea.
So, yeah, I think that should be enough for today. Otherwise, SA is going to kill me.
Okay.
You comfortable with what I've showed you?
I think there's a lot of information. I just get the whole ID, and when I go to detail, I think I will get some other question for you. But okay.
So what there seems to be a lot of validation against the cell and references and being able to check against what's already in the database. So that we need to be very careful about how we configure, how we select the interface. Otherwise, we're going to have something that's really unmanageable. I just okay. So Van, do you have that? Chuyen sent me something on Skype about the interface that you wanted to use.
I'm not sure until now. Maybe I just with Chuyen to select the good interface for you, and you don't have any reference, right? Just for the interface. It just I mean if the functionality is the same like this, and the interface is maybe a bit little different, it's okay.
Yeah, I mean, look, we expect it to be a little bit different. That's fine. We're not gonna do it exactly the same. It's just a case of picking the right template to work from to be able to construct something this detailed.
Okay. I will construct it for most the inside, but for the outside the the software, the desktop software, and the app, web app application may be a little bit different.
Okay, so that's right. So what with the message that Julian sent me, he sent me a screenshot of Core UI.
Mm.
I'm guessing, yeah. Why did you do that?
For last project, I do that because for that time I don't have any idea about the project, about the application. I think the project is much more complicated than not much, but a bit complicated than e-commerce and the last project I do. But okay, you asked Tuan also Huang, and we will choose the right template for your project.
Yeah. So you've worked with Core UI before? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I do. Core UI and Metronic. I have some template.
Okay. All right. So let me go through. So you already have the template, so you want us to pick out the template?
I will use a template, but what template is I will discuss with Juan and Tuan in that team in that in his project. Okay, maybe I don't use Core UI because I think the interface I will listen to them.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm looking at it right now. It's not too dissimilar to what we're doing at the moment with the Genetica project. I'll send this to Abe. At the end of the day, it's his decision. It's not my decision to make. So, I'll speak to him. I'm going to have a meeting with him tonight, and we'll go through this in more detail. I suggest in the meantime that you just go through the video that I'm about to send you. That's the capture of this meeting and also the documentation. Rania, the documentation, is there anything in the document that needs to be called upon or we need to draw a reference to while we have Van on the line?
Yes.
The documentation is basically for the user. It's a user manual, which we don't go through configuration with the user. Basically, configuration that's been done is based on what the upper management at that site requested. So with the user, we usually show them, okay, you just add the home and like the home address. We don't say, okay, if you want to add an extra attention or the organization, it's just configuration. So it's basic, which is what Dan should have at this stage, but later on he needs to be more introduced to the configuration part of the application.
Okay. All right. What happens?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess the next step, Rania, from your part, you're going to configure the actual example for Van to work from. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that's going to be, according to Abraham, that's going to be accessible via a VPN through Azure. Is that correct, Rania?
Okay.
Oh, okay. So you're not the one doing it. Is it you or Abraham doing it?
To be honest with you, I'm not going to.
Okay. Sorry, Van. Just give us a second. All right. So I'll probably just pass this on to Abraham to finish. Once he's done that, I'll get him to email us the details as well. So it's a good idea that all three of us are across the way it's configured, just so we can have the same access, so we know what Van is working on. Van, I've sent Craig, who's our general manager in Sydney, an email asking him to create an email account for you. So from now on, once we create that account, I'll send you the details. You'll be using just that email and also the group that Chu Yen created on Skype to get in contact with us. And usually we have our meetings using GoToMeeting as well. So that's probably the Skype and the email is the best way to do it. And when we have our usual meeting, I usually meet with the developers on Wednesday afternoons for a long meeting, just to recap on what we need to do and everything. And on Fridays we have a meeting with Farhad. But in this case, you're not dealing with Farhad, you're going to be dealing with Abraham. So we need to arrange a time where we have a regular weekly meeting between you and Abraham, just in case you have questions on the API. So having said that, we're still not at that stage yet. So what we need to do is, I think we need to agree to meet tomorrow as well, Rania, if that's okay with you, that we step through the next stage.
So what time?
Sorry, sir. Tomorrow,
what time?
Tomorrow, 3 o'clock, same time. And we'll probably be a lot briefer because I don't think I want to go through any more functionality, but just a quick recap and to see where we are. Just a quick catch up. So worst case scenario, it'll be about I guess 20-minute meeting. But I want to catch up daily at this point in time, just to be able to make sure that we all know where we are, and we don't let the project just run away from us from the very beginning. So we'll just meet tomorrow for about 20 minutes at 3 o'clock. Okay, and it's using the same link in GoToMeeting. Is that okay,
That's
Rania?
fine.
Okay.
And that's okay with you, Van?
So, yes, but the another thing is for the business logic. When I have the question, I will ask you or ask Abraham.
Oh, okay. It depends, and that's the thing. It's like usually you'll get in contact with me. Abraham is extremely busy, so what you do is you'll speak directly to me. When you have a question about the API, it's probably best that you email Abraham and CC me on the email. I need to be on the email so I know that there's an issue, and you have to let me know as well. So usually on Skype, you'll tell me that there's an issue with the API, and then you'll send Abraham an email and CC me on the email. Then on one day a week, we have a long meeting where we resolve and discuss what's the issues with the API, and we'll step through the work progress and what's been done, what needs to be done, and what will happen next. Okay, so that's how we usually handle it with the other team, and I don't see why we should do it any differently here. In fact, I think it'll make it a lot more. It'll make the whole project a lot simpler if we do it that way. So, yeah. Firstly, on the first point of contact, there will be some occasions where you need to work directly with Abraham and only Abraham, but it's probably far too early to be discussing that now.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so you know what to do, Van, Rania.
Yeah.
You're on the. We're all on the same page. I guess what I'll do now is I'll send you this video, Van, and you know what to do. All right. So we'll meet up tomorrow at the same time. All right. Thanks, guys.
Okay. Thank you very much, Abraham and Esa.
It's Esa and Rania.
All right.
Okay. Esa and Rania. Okay. No worries. Thank you. Bye.
All right. Okay.
See you. Bye.
Yeah, bye.